everybody, and welcome to the Barcoding Huddle. I'm your host, Jody Costa, the VP of Marketing and Strategic Partnerships for Barcoding Incorporated. Barcoding is a supply chain automation and innovation company dedicated to helping organizations like yours become more efficient, accurate, and connected. And today, I'm thrilled to be here with a very special partner of ours, DTG, because we're going to talk all about inefficient processes and what challenges those bring and how we can save time and money and really just be better versions of our organizational selves. So really excited to have DTG here. DTG is the global leader in the design, development, and delivery of power systems, battery-powered mobile computer workstations, and mobile food and beverage carts. DTG designs innovative mobile solutions that allow companies like you to untether your workforce, bring IT equipment and resources to the point of task, and take advantage of every revenue opportunity. And I can absolutely vouch for them from the barcoding perspective. They're a great partner, and they bring great solutions to our customers across the board. So at this point, Matt, I think you're the only panelist not on camera yet, so come on. And I want to formally welcome DTG and all of our panelists here today. And just to get things going, we always like to do some brief introductions. It kind of gets everything moving in the right direction. I'm going to start actually with my colleague, Matt Menapace, who's a special guest for us today. So Matt, maybe give us a quick intro and then we'll go around the horn.
Perfect. Thanks, Jody. My name is Matt Menapace, Director of Label and Printing Solutions. Been with Barcoding, I've been in the industry for about 6.5 years now. Prior to that, I was in transportation and logistics, so a lot of it ties together well. Now that I have given you my title, you may be asking why I'm on this call with labels and printing, and we're talking about mobile solutions here. The DTG offering, as we dig into it a little further, you'll be able to see a lot of times there's some sort of printer that has a play in what we're able to do to mobilize the workforce and help them be more efficient and safer as well. So that's where a lot of my involvement comes into play with our partnership.
That's awesome, Matt. Well, thanks for joining and appreciate you hopping on. Rich, I'm going to start with you. Could you give us a brief intro, who you are? Tell us a little bit more about DTG.
Yes, thank you very much, Jody, Matt, and the rest of the Barcoding team for inviting us to this huddle where we're looking forward to speaking to you and as a panelist, and hopefully we can provide insight for you and your customers and our strategic partnership. Also, thank you for that intro with DTG. You did a fabulous job. That was just what I was going to say, so I appreciate that came from you as opposed to me. But DTG is a battery company by heart. And what we've done is we've developed the most advanced battery system in the marketplace. And what we do is we provide innovative solutions as vehicles around our battery system to allow mobility in bringing solutions, IT equipment to the point of task. And Matt, as you mentioned, by being the label director, we allow you to print more labels and be more efficient on the workforce, and also the warehouse logistics space in allowing IT equipment to get to the heart and to the user itself. DTG's been in circulation for about 8 years. We used to be a reseller where we were reselling battery technology, and we found that there was a void in the healthcare space. And we developed the most advanced lithium battery solution. The safest battery on the market was developed for the medical space, and then we migrated over to the industrial, warehouse, and logistics space, along with the food and beverage and hospitality verticals. And we're excited to talk to you today about our Lean Six Sigma approach and efficiencies. And along with me is Cameron Shaheen, first cousin of mine as well. Cameron's been with us for a few years, and Cameron, I'll let you explain your role and how you can help.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jody and Matt and the rest of the Barcoding team for having us. My name's Cam Shaheen. As Rich said, I'm his cousin, and it's a family business, DTG. So we're always, we get to rag on each other a little bit at work too. But my role at the company is a strategic product manager. I'm also a Lean Six Sigma black belt. A lot of what I do is kind of working with our end users to understand not only their current state of operations, but really show them what their future state can look like with our products, and kind of showing them not just the value of our products, but the actual ROI within the processes that our products will go into. And that kind of helps take a lot of the risk out of a purchase and gives the customer more kind of comfort in knowing that we do guarantee our value. And a lot of that is just using kind of the define and measure stages that you get in Lean Six Sigma.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. It's a great accomplishment. And we love having Lean Six Sigma black belts in the room because you just bring so much great knowledge and expertise to the table. So thank you for being here.
No pressure, right?
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, that's right. Now we can get into the good stuff. So appreciate you guys giving us some intros. Once again, I'm Jody, Barcoding, and I am live coming to you from our Barcoding headquarters in Baltimore, Maryland. So when you see the folks moving around, you will know they're real. They're real people. So let's dive into the industrial market. So I know that DTG really found success in the healthcare space and then was able to kind of roll into the industrial market and find just as much success. That tends to be an area where Barcoding Inc., we tend to thrive. And of course, within those four walls in the warehousing distribution market, we are seeing a ton going on, right? Huge labor shortages or labor challenges, onboarding, retention, things like that. Old legacy technology, maybe we're kind of waiting to see what macro elements come to the table in order to figure out if we're going to upgrade or not. We just need to make do with what we have. But we've got a lot of warehousing space. We've got a lot of distribution centers out there. And I believe we know that walking around is the number one waste. And if we're wasting, precious minutes maneuvering down aisles, running back and forth to a print station, running back and forth to a print room, I mean, that's just wasted dollars, right? So let's just kick off today's conversation. Like, what are the challenges that you're seeing out there today? What's going on? What are we really dealing with? And because he's the Lean Six Sigma black belt, we'll start with Cam.
Yeah, no, I think some of the challenges you kind of already pointed to, there's a huge labor shortage in this industry. And I think with that labor shortage, there's also a high increase in turnover. So, you're talking high training costs, you get people up to speed and then they leave. And I think one of the biggest changes was COVID and how much that pushed customer demand for online store and e-commerce. And I think it's really created this need in the warehouse and distribution centers to look at technology as a way to augment their existing processes. We all know that there is a future where everything's robotics, but for now you have to find a way to automate your workforce. And, right now there's a lot of human-centric processes within these sites. And they're inefficient because of some of the things you just pointed at. I mean, motion waste is the biggest waste within a warehouse, but transportation waste is right there with it. And transportation waste is when you're actually moving product or equipment throughout the facility as well. And there's risk whenever you're doing that. If you're bringing a label from a fixed workstation to a dock door, you could drop the label and the label's gone. And so, or you could damage it in transit. Those kind of things, while they are outliers scenarios, do happen along with motion waste. And I think the industry as a whole is really trying to figure out, well, how do we become more efficient without increasing our labor force that we don't have? And I think they're looking to technology and kind of to Industry 4.0 and those kind of technologies to figure out, well, how do we become more efficient in the short term?
Yes, I think that, robotics kind of gets the big headline, but I like the way that you kind of talked about, we really do also need to augment these human-based processes.
100%.
Yeah, Rich, would you elaborate a little bit more on kind of why that's so important?
Yeah, labor shortage and inefficiencies are very important in the workplace. But also what we're finding is people have to compete against one another. And with the expansion and explosion of one of the biggest online retailers in the world that we've ever seen has come in this market, 10, 15 years ago, we're finding that the traditional warehouses, logistics space have to do something to keep up. And the way to do that is invest into technology, invest into newer processes to become faster, smarter, and produce more in a shorter amount of time with less resources. So they have to utilize and adapt the technology to accomplish that.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, I feel like the printing side of the house, printing, that doesn't seem all that modern, right? Probably hear that all the time, but why is that such a unique spot for this type of kind of technological augmentation? Why is that such an area ripe for kind of change?
Yeah, thanks, Jody. I mean, to Cam and both Rich's point, there's a lot of wasted movement, especially around labeling. I was on a recent site visit and it literally took us 20 minutes to get through a warehouse to make it to offices. So can you imagine the amount of waste in a facility like that, where if you're going to the edge of the facility just to grab a roll of labels or pre-printed labels, if you can have that right where you are with your products, labeling those boxes and keeping them moving, you're going to be much more efficient. And to Cam's point as well, you're going to help keep the employee retention and make them a little happier that they're not racking up those constant miles on concrete floors all day. And also, we talked about robotics. Sure, that's needed in a lot of areas today. But the nice thing about the DTG operation is as well, you're not deleting your workforce. You're making them more efficient. You're keeping them happy, and you're putting less miles at wear and tear on their bodies as well. So if we're going into a company, maybe their workforce is worried about being let go with new automation, that's not what we're doing here. With the operations right now struggling to find enough people, we're making them more efficient and being able to do more with their people they do have on staff today. And it's not deleting a workforce since they're already short staffed.
Right. No walking back and forth. Well, I don't know how they're going to get their steps though, Matt. I mean,
yeah, the Fitbit probably is not going to be happy if they hear this call. That's for sure.
I know that I actually personally even just hate getting up from my desk to go to the printer. So I can't even imagine if I was working in a warehouse. But like on that topic, like as we, that's a great real life example. I'm wondering if we can dig into that a little bit more, some more examples. Let's give the audience a little bit more of a window of what you guys are seeing out there that DTG is particularly focused on. And Cam, I'll start with you. Either some examples of waste or some use cases. Let's start talking some stories.
Sorry, I was muted. Within the four walls of a warehouse, I think there's like 3 or 4 main use cases. Some are motion waste, some don't incorporate motion waste and have other types of waste that come into. So I think the big hitter is really always the shipping receiving department. So anytime you're doing kind of your staging for either incoming or outgoing is normally a huge opportunity to leverage things like workstations or other mobile technology to kind of really make those processes more efficient. Because, on a shipping staging process, like let's say product's ready for outgoing. Well, I have to walk over there without a computer, write down all that information about that staging shipment, walk it back to the workstation, enter it into the WMS to stage it, print everything out, and then walk back again, and then walk back a third time once I've applied the labels to say, yep, this is ready for outgoing. Within that process alone, you had the motion waste, but you also had over processing because you're writing down the same information multiple times. You have transportation waste because you're bringing paper and those kind of like labels and things back and forth. And then lastly, you have defect waste because human error exists within every single process that anyone does. So all it could take for me is writing one number wrong on that shipment and the whole thing becomes a quality issue. And so that's kind of where, let's say you had a mobile scanner and a workstation at the point of task, all of those issues tend to go away. That's probably the main use case we see. I'd say some of the other ones are supervisor mobility. With the amount of turnover that you have, you're constantly getting new employees into these sites. And so having supervisors on the floor presents a ton of value, not only because of that, but often supervisors are the ones that when a problem occurs, they are the one deployed to fix that problem. And it happens enough that they're doing motion waste back and forth as well. And so that's kind of another big use case we see. And I'd say that the third, and one of the other big ones is for inventory control operations. So anytime you're doing kind of cycle counting, traditionally, you're writing it down on a piece of paper, you're saying this bin had this many and this serial number, and then you're walking back to a fixed workstation to enter that information. You see a trend here, the same kind of waste that exists in some of the other processes exists within these as well. And I'd say those are three of probably the main use cases you'll see within like the four walls of a distribution center.
I'm sure that people are nodding their heads as they're listening to this. Rich, I see you're about to jump in, so let's elaborate. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, Kim, I was wondering if we could tell the story about the logistics company that we helped, and we did an analysis and an ROI in showing them what the motion waste and how much we save per minute per shipment, and what that may equate to for the end user and for the customer and the value of it.
Yeah, so I mean, typically within a shipping receiving operation, that use case specifically, which I think is kind of what you're speaking to, Rich, on the high end, we get ROIs in a day. So you're talking, they produce enough waste in one day, because a lot of the times it's less about distance, it's more about volume. Volume has a huge impact on how much waste an operation will have, because I could be walking a half a mile, but if I only do it once a day, it's not that much waste compared to if I'm walking 20 feet 500 times a day. That's more wasteful than the first operation. And so in some of these really high volume logistics companies, you know, the big ones that we've all heard of, their ROIs are so quick because they have high volume, large warehouses, and they're walking back and forth constantly. So you're talking like in a current state without DTG products or workstations, they're wasting hundreds of minutes a day, if not thousands, based on what their volume is. And then when you kind of do the calculations, you incorporate, you know, employees don't just cost the salary per hour, they have all these additional costs. And so when you incorporate those additional costs and you multiply it by how many hours are wasted, you get a pretty inflated waste metric. And in some companies, and specifically the logistics company Rich is talking about, they were wasting, I think, $500,000 a year just within their shipping operation, not bringing the IT and traditionally fixed technology to the point of task.
And Kim, I think I'm sorry, Jody, go ahead.
No, I was like, did they believe you? Like, did they believe they were like the numbers were that high?
After they saw Cam's report, they did.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is like, unless you understand Lean Six Sigma and know what to look for, you're not being that investigator. And I think like a lot of logistics companies fail to kind of evaluate their existing processes and the way they're doing things and really look at them from less of a like, well, that's just the way it's always been. And looking at it like, what's step 1 through step 10, and where within that can we find a way to make it more efficient? And I think when you do that mapping and you get a full picture of what's going on, you start seeing like, oh wow, this is worse than I ever thought it was. Because a 20-second walk doesn't feel like a lot, but when you do it 500 times a day, it starts to add up.
And in that example, Jody and Matt, I think we saved, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron, we saved 3 minutes per shipment.
Wow.
So every shipment we saved, I'm sorry?
I think it was higher. In some scenarios, it's 3, and some you'll get upwards of 5 to 10. You know, like
Oh my God.
some warehouses we know are like a half mile long to a mile long. You know, if you're making a 500-foot walk 400 times a day, that's pretty wasteful. And then, you know, you incorporate some of the other waste within those processes, like the rework where you're writing down all that information. I mean, writing down serial numbers and SKUs and quantities, that's not a quick thing either. You know, as fast as anyone is at handwriting, it's not as efficient as, let's say, you just scan it with a scanner and it's all that information is collected immediately. So something that would take a human 30 seconds to a minute takes 1 second. And so that's where you're 30 times more efficient just within one step of the process.
And often we've taken a process from 7 or 8 or 9 steps and reduced it to 3 or 4. So there's less touch points, less mistakes. Case in point, I was with a large retailer not so long ago, and they mentioned to me, due to mistakes of printing the wrong labels, they were wasting $1 million a month on wrong shipments that they would never get back.
Yeah.
They would just write it off. I'm like, $1 million a month. That's tremendous.
Yeah, actually, that was actually Rich for a on outgoing. They would do like a check of like, okay, they would do a manual check of what's in the the truck. And anytime because it was so manual, they would miss things and they weren't scanning things. So they're writing things down and they would miss things, and anything that they missed would go as a lost good and then would be deducted from the warehouse that had the lost good, because it's basically inventory that exists in limbo. And the issues that causes at the site are big, but then you have to think of the quality issues when that gets to another site, when they're like, this wasn't on the, this isn't on the bill of lading, or it was confirmed on the bill of lading, but it's not here. Those issues create more issues and more waste because a human error wasn't caught earlier on in the process.
And I mean, waste, but also now your colleagues or your trading partners are super angry at you. And so people are actually upset. And then on top of it, for a company like barcoding, if this, I'm gonna speak directly to my people watching, right? If this sounds like you, right? You do not have to settle anymore. There is a better way. And I think, if you mentioned CAM specifically, a lot of folks don't have a Lean Six Sigma black belt within their operations. And Matt, I'm sure you see this too, as we go in and look at different organizations and their processes. We always start with processes and people too, right? But you may not know where to start. So, I'll start with kind of Matt, but then we'll go around again. Like, what are some basic, sort of touched upon it, but I'm gonna have us repeat, right? What are some basic questions me as a customer I should be asking myself, or some basic areas that I should say, okay, yes, that doesn't look like a lot, but when I actually, take the time to measure it, right? Those back and forth steps, or these little, I just have to write down one thing. It's not a big deal, right? What are some of those questions, or what are some of those areas we should be asking ourselves? Matt, what are some of the things that you bring to the table? And then we'll
a lot of it, and this goes to the entire business that we try to help our customers with, is really understanding their process from start to finish. If we can get a layout, if we're not able to get on site, obviously being on site is extremely crucial in this area. Understanding their layout of their facility, the size of the facility, number of shipments they're moving through, number of inventory items they have on hand, and the number of employees that are doing that work. Even sometimes down to the number of printers that they have in certain areas of their operation, whether it's on the manufacturing side coming off the line, or how many printers they may have and what size printers that they're running through on the outbound side as well. That gives us a good idea of how many people are involved, how many packages are involved as well. And the CAM's point as well, I mean, if we're talking to a customer, sometimes they want to talk about RFID or other technologies as well. It's not always the easiest to quantify the savings and the ROI for them. One of the easy talking points with DTG's product, and someone like Cam and his expertise as well, if you can show a general manager or an operations manager an ROI or a guaranteed ROI, a lot of times it's a no-brainer from there, and it really hits home then. There's areas that they don't think of because they have a lot of things going on in their operation. So they may not understand of how to quantify those different wasted areas. But when we can spell that out for them, and then DTG backs their operations with the guarantee, then you've really hit a home run with a lot of these customers to show them the savings and return on their investment on how quick that can be.
Matt, that's a great point. Thanks for mentioning that, because what we do for end users is we won't even recommend these mobility solutions unless we can get Cam and his team to talk to the end users, go through this process with them, either on site or a remote situation like this. And we will produce a report for them, proving to them where their ROI is going to be and when. And if we can't accomplish that within 12 months, we don't recommend a solution for them. And if Barcodes does recommend the DTG solution, and we find out that the end user doesn't achieve that ROI within 12 months, we'll take everything back. We're that confident in our Lean Six Sigma approach and our methodology, utilizing Cam and his team to prove this out, to show how important it is and how we can solve these motion waste and these pain points of the customer.
Yeah. No, I think
because I feel like Cam, I mean, it really would be difficult. I always think about my own world here at barcoding, and you do get wrapped up in the day-to-day, and you are looking maybe at new technologies and new things. So kind of pulling back and looking at just what's there and what is being wasted that can be that low hanging fruit, almost that immediate stuff. Sometimes
I
it's
do actually want to add something else, Jody. I think to really simplify it for customers, like look at all your processes that you think are inefficient and just map out 1 through 10. What happens from start to finish? And then when you do that, then look at what within that would you consider as waste? What would be solvable with some type of technology? You don't have to have a Lean Six Sigma background to say this is step 1 through step 10 of what we're currently doing. But you do need to have a second, like you're saying, to kind of step back and look at your operations. And I think sometimes within the 4 walls of the distribution center, it doesn't feel like maybe you always have the time for it. But when you look at how much waste is existing in your current state, if you make time for it, you will gain so much more in the long run.
That's where barcoding and DTG come in, right? Because we can help you when you don't feel like you have the time. Because I think that, like I said, I think people were probably vigorously nodding when you said, oh, it's not always just the big facilities with the big walks, right? I mean, that was home for me, that it could be something as simple as there's just, a 25-yard distance between me and the print room. And I just keep going back and forth. And I don't think about it because it's short.
100%. And to your point, like, in my opinion, like a space and like how far you have to walk is obviously a factor, but the most important factor in waste is volume.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing something 100 times a day, as I said before, it may be more inefficient than walking a half a mile. And I think that's something that companies need to consider too, is just because maybe I'm a smaller site, like I only have 100,000 square feet, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not wasteful in your current state as well.
Jody, it's kind of like when you're in your kitchen and you have a full sink of dishes. And you're looking at the dishwasher and it's all the way over there. And you have the water running, right? And you rinse in the dishwasher. Now you're walking all the way to the dishwasher. And my house is not that far, but it's waste. And I'm dripping the water the whole time. All right. Now I got wasteful motion going on. I got a mess I got to pick up, and I got irritated people in the house because I'm making a mess and creating motion waste and other waste. It's the same thing a little bit, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, I think that hopefully this is really resonating with folks, that, you don't have to be some sort of very large enterprise to get value out of this, and that there, all of us are going to have waste in our processes. Like, I think it's just smartly recognizing where you can have some really immediate and quick, take some steps to actually get that waste back out of the organization. And that's what I really love about the DTG product line. So we've been kind of dancing around it, but actually let's just get to it. Like, let's talk about what is the product that we're talking about? What does it really seem like? What does it look like? How does it work? What's its most common use case, that sort of thing? Rich, I'll start with you.
Sure, I'll start. I figured I'd have this as a prompt. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. So this is our battery system. This is the one we designed for the healthcare space. And then we migrated over to the warehouse logistics fulfillment space. This battery is the safest chemistry on the market. It is safer than the cell phones in our pocket or the laptops on our desk. The chemistry in there is lithium iron phosphate, and it has no cobalt, no mixed metals, so it can never, ever catch fire or have a runaway situation due to overcharging or puncture. I mean, literally, you can put a knife through this thing or drop it on the ground. The mechanisms, the safety mechanisms in this will produce an outgassing where the energy will not be generated so much encapsulated in the case and cause a fire. It also has 60601 medical grade certification, which is designed for the medical space, which means you can have your hand on this and at the same time you have your hand on a patient with a pacemaker and there's no interference. It's the only certification that is allowed in the medical space. And we took that over to the warehouse logistics fulfillment space. So it's safe, it's small, it's maneuverable, it's light. And what we do is we design mobile workstations around this battery system, or if we need more capacity, we have other systems and fixed systems as well. And then we design our mobile workstations to bring the battery system and also the IT equipment to the point of task that we were mentioning. This battery system is in 3 forms. It can be used as a hot swap, where you can have one on the cart, one on a charger, and then when this dies, you can remove it from the mobile cart. You'll have 3 minutes because there's an internal battery, so all your IT equipment will stay up, and your WMS won't crash. And then you can swap it out, or you can opportunity charge this. You can literally plug it into the wall when it's on the cart, or you can use it as a fixed system too as well. So we're the only one in the industry that does that. And then there's also, our competitors have different solutions, but also end users, they sometimes want to do this themselves, and they'll buy like a Uline cart, and they'll use a marine battery with banana clips and try to charge it with a charger plugged into the wall. And I will tell you, that's not safe. And we've heard many catastrophes happening, things caught on fire. You don't want to use a marine battery or an SLA battery in that form in an enclosed industrial space. Cam, I know you've seen that.
Yeah, no.
We try to remove it as fast as possible.
I think sometimes what happens is, and this is something I think that a lot of companies are facing as they're trying to look towards technology as a solution, is they don't know what they're looking for or what they're supposed to pay, because it's not a forklift. It's not a commodity they're used to purchasing, and they know the framework of what that sales process looks like. So with something like this, they're like, well, I'll just make it from home. And when you do that, obviously there's the safety concerns that Rich just talked about, but the bigger ones are, you're still going to have a lot of waste within your operation, because if you have an SLA battery that's fixed, that you can't plug into the wall, that's not making it through multiple shifts. So you need to either have a way to change them out mid-shift, or you have to have 2 to 3 times as much IT equipment as you would necessarily need to have with something like our product, where you have that hybrid flexibility. And then lastly, like, you're replacing those batteries far more often, because the way that the technology on that works is it's not meant to be charged up and discharged all the way down over and over again. So you get this huge, we kind of call it like a cliff. Like basically like 6 months to a year, that battery will fall off a cliff. And like, just like your iPhone will have like 84% battery health after a year. Well, an SLA battery, which is a more inferior chemistry, you're talking like a 50% drop off after 6 months to a year. And so then something that maybe used to get you through a full shift now only gets you through half a shift. And so then we end up hearing from them eventually. And this is kind of what happens, is like, we get a lot of early adopters who are like, yeah, I get why this has a lot of value. I understand it. And then there's the other group of like, I don't know this technology well enough to know whether or not this is the right solution. And so they try other things first. And we eventually kind of get them coming back around on the back end a few years later, when they're like, yeah, we tried it that way. It didn't work. And so that's something we also see with other types of mobile technology, like mobile hip printers or mobile scanners, because just like the SLA battery, those batteries are not meant to be cycled up and down over and over and over again. And then also you have a huge impact on your network and just a very inflated IT infrastructure with some of these other technologies.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Cam. And there's other lithium ion phosphate and lithium ion technologies as well, especially in our cell phones. And I don't know about you guys, but my cell phone's almost useless after a year and a half or 2 years, and it frustrates me. It just doesn't, the cycle counts when it starts getting up to 1,000 or 2,000, it starts getting wear and tear on the battery. Our system is designed with our BMS, our battery management system, to never be in an overcharging state. And we're seeing 6 to 7 years of the lifespan on this battery itself. Just after 5 or 6 years, we're still seeing the state of health at 92%, which, if anybody knows about lithium technology, usually the cliff is around 80%. So we're confident that this battery is going to last 7+ years. So that's kind of been one of the reasons why we developed it and been the global leader in the space.
I think the best example.
Yeah, keep it going, Cam.
Yeah, I think one of the best examples I can think of is like computers. When computers first came out, everyone was like, I don't know why I need this, or what's the value. And it was expensive. And so people were like, I don't need it. My calculator does the work for me, and I have an accounting book. And then, now everyone has a computer, and you can kind of think the same as like going from the flip phone to the smartphone. It's like, there's always hesitation around new technology and a lack of understanding. And you get people that are what you would call early adopters who are all in because they can kind of see where it's going. And I think sometimes that's kind of where we fit in, is like, we're kind of in this early adopters. The industry is definitely changing and starting to look at these technologies, but there is that hesitation.
But I think it's, how do we bring that power, right, to where the task is being done? And it's clear that you guys have passionately thought about how that power is generated, right? AKA the battery. And I think that that's something that is clear. So, hopefully this, you're out there, you're watching this video, you realize you don't have to make your own. Please don't make your own.
Please don't make your own.
Please don't make your own. We're here to tell you don't have to do that. They've done all the hard work for you. And they can bring that power directly to the task at hand so that you can power those other technologies that you need to do that work. And I'm assuming this is a huge boost in employee experience. So Matt, I'm going to bring you back into this. Talk to me a little bit about, through barcoding, DTG has been a great partner of ours. We've deployed a lot of these solutions. Talk to me about what our customers kind of say. What do their employees say, right? So is the operations manager a hero at this point?
A lot of times they are in multiple areas. One, they're saving the operation money by making things more efficient. And as we talked about earlier too, they're saving or working with employee retention because they're not running their employees to the ground as well. I'm sure we've all heard stories about some of the large retailers and online retailers and the amount of packages that they have to process per day or even per hour. And there's a lot of movement and a lot of wasted movement. And Jody, to your point, one of the things that the DTG does, bringing the power to them and doubling back with their overall solution. It starts with the battery. The nice thing is too, it all starts there, but then it can filter into the rest of their operation. Even if someone that you're coming across that has maybe they tried to do a homegrown system and they have some money already involved and tied up with it, and they're not ready for a complete total new solution. DTG also can retrofit areas as well. Now their cart solutions are, and I can speak firsthand, I've seen them in operation as well. They're extremely durable. They can customize them to your needs. But at the end of the day, if someone's has already dropped X amount of dollars previously on existing funds and the power system just isn't there, they can look at retrofitting them as well. And Jody, to your point, in areas that the operations are seeing a big output, and obviously what's near and dear to my heart with labeling and label printing, and something that Cam mentioned, yes, there's mobile printers out there in the workforce today. There's thousands of them that are being used across the board. One of the nice benefits about using something like the DTG mobile units with getting rid of those mobile printers is you can have a more industrial printer that's going to have a better throughput for you, that's going to be able to print more labels, and you can have larger roll capacity as well. So if you have someone that's extremely busy and running through hundreds of packages a day, they're not going to have to continuously go back and swap out their label rolls. So again, it's not something they have to go back to the desk or the office for. They can have thousands of labels on those rolls, have the larger printer throughput that's right there next to them, and continue to keep that operation throughout the day moving.
And I think to your point as well, another big one is if let's say you have a 3-shift operation and you use mobile hip printers. Well, to make it through those 3 shifts, you probably need 3 mobile printers. Now, with a workstation, you could use 1 printer to make it through all 3 operations. And that has a huge impact on your network. And I think this is something that a lot of, we see our customers that are kind of getting away from mobile hip printers and like a lot of printers in their site is that has a huge impact on your network and like how good your connectivity is throughout the warehouse. And so when you can reduce your IT infrastructure by using something like workstations, you don't need to then go add in more access panels to get your connectivity better. So we can help maybe save you for an additional fixed cost that maybe you wouldn't need with something like our solution.
So Rich, so many benefits to these mobile workstations. I'm assuming there's also a little bit of a safety consideration here. We kind of talked a little bit about it with the batteries, but do you want to go a little bit deeper into kind of that employee experience around safety?
It's a good point, Cam. You're kind of the expert on how this helps employee
Yeah.
safety and
Oh, I tossed it to the wrong person.
Yeah.
yeah, that's all right. I'm gonna leave it up to Lean Six Sigma. They know
Oh.
everything.
With OSHA, there's a lot of standards that they go by for desk height and having the mobility of a desk go up and down. And so that's kind of where our workstation really comes. This has less to do with the battery, more to do with the workstation itself. We have a lot of built-in ergonomics that kind of prevent some things that will happen. So I'll give a great example. We have one of the biggest logistics companies in the world. They were noticing that with their workstations, they had a laptop and they were kind of standing up, looking down like this all day on their laptop. And they had 50% of their workforce missing time every single year. Because they were getting neck and back injuries from cranking their neck 8 hours a day. I mean, if you were looking down at a laptop like this, that's going to have an impact on your neck, especially as you age. Like that's just a factor we all know will happen. And so what we did for them is actually added in not only the desk itself being able to go up and down, but the monitor bridge to be able to go up and down too. So you have kind of this dual ergonomics that can kind of prevent some of the issues. And we saw, I think it dropped the injury recordance to like 10% or under 10%. I mean, the program's still going out, so we're still getting more data, but there is a huge benefit to solutions like ours in reducing your workplace injuries, especially for people that are standing at a desk constantly doing this type of work. You have to consider things not just like the desk, but how the keyboard rotates and having that kind of negative and positive tilt of a keyboard. So there's a lot of things to consider that we've kind of put into place, like our casters, for example. We have tracking casters. So that's to prevent when a tracking caster, if you're moving in a straight line, will basically make sure it moves in a straight line. Like you can push it with one finger and it'll keep going straight. Without a fixed caster, there's you're running the risk of sway. And so anytime there's a sway and you have to self-correct, that's a shoulder impact. And so if I'm a safety risk assessment person and I'm looking at, other technologies compared to ours, there's a lot of built-in ergonomics that do have an impact, and not only have an impact on the worker themselves, but can have an impact on the company's bottom line as well by reducing those worker compensation, those LTI incidences that can happen with other solutions.
So today, with all of the challenges that we face with, providing that great employee experience, it seems like, kind of maybe something that folks didn't realize is that DTG really has thought through those components as well. What is really best for that user from all different factors? And I just love that. And that's why I think we make such good partners, because barcoding is always focused on those processes and the people involved, right? Really, what is that blend, that right blend of human and technology? How does technology make all of us humans better? That's very, very much aligned to our way of thinking too. So in the spirit of partnerships, I think let's talk, Rich. I think I got this one. I'm going to give you the right one here. Talk to me about why partnerships are so important to DTG, and why do you think DTG and Barcoding Inc. are so successful together as partners?
That's a great question, Jody. Thank you. For DTG, it's all about partners. There's no possible way we can get the word out and help the end user without our partner community. Working in the channel in previous life, we used to own a reseller, and we know the importance of servicing the end user and bringing innovative and value-added solutions to their environment, because you are a trusted advisor. And in doing so, you need to partner with manufacturers, one, you can trust, two, that have products, innovative products that add value, can show and prove an ROI and a TCO, a total cost of ownership, instead of just knocking on doors saying, this is what you want to buy, and it's a great company, but they're going to say, well, prove it to us. And we have those tools to prove it. And Barcoding has been a tremendous partner since the start. We've been partners for quite some time, and one of our first and one of our largest. So we're very proud of that. We thank you and your team for your ongoing support and level of commitment to DTG. And you have the relationships with your end users that I've seen firsthand. They trust you tremendously. And we make sure that we make recommendations on your best behalf and try to help your organization sell this solution as much as possible. And we don't just, leave you out there to say, well, good luck trying to prove a Lean Six Sigma methodology when you may not have one on staff. We got Cam and we leverage him with our partner community as much as we possibly can.
Love it. Well, I know that, if this sounds great to you and know that when you get started with barcoding and DTG, we are going to go through this process with you. We are going to ask you some great questions. We are going to identify that waste and we are going to prove it to you, right? We're going to prove the solution to you. If you are ready to get started, just go to barcoding.com, hit that schedule consultation and we will get you going and we can start eliminating that waste today. We don't have to wait. We don't have to settle anymore for the way that we used to do things. And so barcoding.com, click right there and I will get you going with the right folks over here. We typically, I'll give you one last question. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you just think, gosh, we've got to make sure people really remember this, or that, we really want to hammer home? Matt, I want to start with you. Like, what's that one thing that you just want to really make sure people remember, or if there's something that we didn't cover?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we did cover talks about the overall product, the quality of the product, and it's very nimble too. They can customize it for your certain needs. And it goes to Rich's last point as well, as far as a partnership. It truly is a partnership, and you are dealing with good folks at DTG. We're very fortunate at Barcoding to have a good partner community. DTG is definitely one of those. So from start to finish, they're out on the front lines with us, helping the customers see that ROI, being able to see how they can implement that process. And again, as Rich mentioned as well, if they find out that it's not a good fit, they're not going to push someone into that sale just to see the dollars in the end. They are in it to make sure that it is a solution that's going to help them move forward. So from start to finish, you have a nimble product, a nimble partner, and a nimble sales staff, and as well as someone that's going to support you and the customer from start to finish.
Love it. Cam, what's that one thing you want to make sure people remember?
Oh, you're on mute,
I can't hear you. I won't say the words.
Matt, Cam,
All
we still can't hear you.
Cam, you're off the list. We're gonna come back.
Sorry guys, my bad. I muted myself because I have a lawnmower outside. Sorry, I was actually saying that, Matt, you kind of pointed to exactly what I was going to talk about, which is that we're very consultative. And I think with my background, it's a lot about understanding our clients, less about selling. It's really like, I want to see what you're doing and how I can help you. And I think same with your team as well, Jody and Matt, you guys do a really good job of understanding your clients before trying to pitch them on anything. And I think that's a great way not only to build trust with them, but to really show that like, we're here for you. We're here to help you. I can't think of anything else now because Matt stole it. So
that's good. Actually, funny enough that you mentioned lawnmowers, I was thinking when you were talking about the batteries with like the one that's like ready to go, I was like, that's like my lawnmower. I'm like, batteries. Rich, how about you? What's that thing that you really want people to remember coming out of this video today?
This is a solution that unequivocally is an upfront cost. Okay, it's an additional purchase that you probably wouldn't think you would want or need because you're buying other IT equipment when you're trying to, better your workplace or your work floor. But what I would really like people to know is truly understand the total cost of ownership of this solution versus not instituting mobility inside your workplace. The cost of a cart can really it can separate yourself from a lot of expenses that you're going to experience in the years to come when you're not utilizing mobility in your environment. So I would just like people to look at the entire picture and the total cost of ownership of not only the IT equipment, but how to get that IT equipment to the point of task.
Yep, let us prove to you it's worth it, right? Yeah, love it. All right. So again, barcoding.com, super easy. If you like this video too, hit subscribe. We've got lots more good content on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, DTG, for joining us today. I think this has been an incredible conversation. I learned a lot and some really good, food for thought that I hadn't even considered. And I tend to think I know your product line pretty well. So great conversation. We love to end on something a little bit fun. So for today's little fun question, I was thinking about this and I was like, God, we've been talking about walking a lot. So where is our favorite beach or vacation that we get to go to that we don't have to walk, where we get to just sit? So favorite vacation spot where we're not really having to walk a lot. So let's start with Cam.
Oh man, I'm a fidgeter, so I don't really sit well. But I do love. I do love Puerto Rico.
Okay.
I think the food there is just amazing, and the scenes are awesome. And me and Rich are both big surfers, so it's a great place if you're into surfing to kind of go and not only get beautiful reefs and fish underneath you while you're surfing, but you get to go in and eat some awesome plantains and other festive food that they have there.
I love it. Well, surfing is not walking, so that counts.
No.
How about you, Rich?
Well, since Cam and I enjoy the beach so much, I'm going to change it up a little bit. My place where I like to go, where I don't have to walk, is 50 miles offshore. It's too efficient. I can sit in my captain's chair, and the crew can go in the back and do all the walking back and forth for the rods when they go off, I hope. And I get to drive the boat out, drive the boat and troll around and drive the boat back. So that's where I like to not walk.
That's a good one. I like that one. Very nice. All right, Matt, we're going to give you the closing honors.
Yeah, mine's pretty simple. And now that you're saying this, I might have to look at booking another trip here. But I love going to an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica. I love the atmosphere there. I'll go to an all-inclusive. Sure, I'll do an excursion, maybe a little walking there. But I love just lounging around the pools and having a couple cocktails and enjoying myself. It's a little harder these days with a 5-year-old, but hopefully I'll get back there soon.
Yeah, maybe in a little while, Matt. Maybe.
Yep.
So, well, thank you. I think hopefully we've inspired you to remove waste and walking from your organization so that you can save so much money that you can go to Puerto Rico, you can go offshore fishing and Jamaica all in one big fell swoop. But yes, thank you again, DTG. Love our partnership and can't wait to help more organizations. So subscribe, barcoding.com, hit that schedule consultation, and we'll get to work. On behalf of Barcoding, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.